I'm 24 now, and this is the kind of story that sounds like something out of a soap opera, except it's real, painfully real. A year ago, I gave birth to a baby girl. She was unplanned, the result of a brief and very dumb fling with someone I should have never trusted. I was broke, scared, and nowhere near ready to be a mom. My family wasn't happy about it either. My parents were ashamed. My younger sister, Kelly, was oddly quiet about it, but always around. She was 19 at the time, still living at home, studying nursing, and obsessed with babies. Like, weirdly obsessed. At the time, I'd just lost my job, and the baby's father had ghosted me completely. I stayed with my parents through the last months of pregnancy, battling guilt and pressure every single day. When I gave birth, I was in such a fog I barely remember the first week. Postpartum hit me hard. I was constantly crying, confused, barely functioning. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My mom stepped in and started taking care of the baby with my sister, and honestly, I let them. I didn't know what else to do. My body had been through war, and my brain wasn't catching up. Around week 3, Kelly started calling the baby our girl. I thought she meant the family in general. I didn't think much of it. But then, one morning, I woke up and my daughter was gone. My mom told me calmly that Kelly had taken her to run an errand. She made it sound casual, like it was a normal thing. But I never gave that kind of permission. And Kelly wasn't even responding to my messages. I panicked. I called her non-stop. Finally, she answered and said she was just out getting air. She said the baby was fine and she'd be back soon. But she didn't come back that day. Or the next. She stayed at a friend's place, with my baby. And the worst part? My parents were okay with it. I was losing my mind. I kept asking my parents why they weren't freaking out like I was. My dad kept dodging the subject completely, and my mom just said, "Kelly's being helpful. You need rest." As if this was all perfectly normal. But I didn't feel like a mom, I felt like a guest in my own baby's life. I was being sidelined, slowly, quietly. Kelly finally brought the baby home 3 days later. I ran to her and tried to take her from her arms, and she hesitated. Like she didn't want to give her back. That moment still plays in my mind on repeat. I remember her eyes, like she was already convinced the baby was hers. After that, things shifted. Kelly was around the baby constantly, more than I was. She got up in the middle of the night for feedings. She changed every diaper. She bought clothes, toys, even had the baby's name stitched into a blanket, her last name, not mine. And when I tried to step up to say, "Hey, I want to do this today," she'd get passive-aggressive. She'd say I looked tired or that she had it handled. And my parents backed her up every single time. It was like I had been erased. Like some silent deal had been made behind my back. I finally asked my mom why everyone was acting like Kelly was the mother. She didn't answer me directly. She just said, "You need to think about what's best for the baby." That night, I broke down in the bathroom. My daughter was 5 weeks old and I already felt like she'd been taken from me. And it didn't stop there. The next morning, I woke up and my daughter's things, her bassinet, her toys, her bottles, were gone from my room. Kelly had moved everything into hers. And no one told me. I stood in the doorway of Kelly's room, staring at the bassinet now neatly tucked beside her bed, the mobile I bought hanging above it like it had always been there. My clothes were still damp from tears the night before, and now I felt like my chest was going to crack open. She looked up from where she was rocking my daughter like it was the most natural thing in the world and asked if I'd had breakfast. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just turned and walked back to my room, which now felt completely hollow. They didn't even leave a single baby item behind. Not a blanket. Not a stuffed animal. That afternoon, I tried to talk to my dad, thinking maybe he'd be more rational. I told him I felt like my sister was trying to replace me, and that it wasn't right. He didn't deny it. He just said, "Well, she's more stable than you right now. She has a plan." That hit like a slap. A plan? It was like everyone had quietly decided that I wasn't fit to be a mother. And instead of helping me become one, they handed my baby over to my little sister like she was doing me a favor. I started doing everything I could to reclaim space. I took over nighttime feedings again. I dressed her, bathed her, held her close to my chest as long as I could during the day. Kelly watched every move I made like she was waiting for me to mess up. If I fumbled a bottle or got overwhelmed by crying, she swooped in. Sometimes without asking. And then, about a week later, it got even worse. I got a phone call from a friend I hadn't spoken to in a while, someone who went to the same college as Kelly. She sounded hesitant, even nervous. She told me she'd been confused by something Kelly had posted on a private Instagram account. Apparently, Kelly had posted a photo of my daughter. With a caption that said, "Being a mom has changed my life. She's perfect." My sister was pretending she was the mother. I felt sick. Actually nauseous. My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. I asked my friend to send me screenshots, and when they came through, I swear my heart stopped. There was my baby. In Kelly's arms. Snuggled in the blanket with Kelly's last name stitched across it. The caption said exactly what my friend told me: being a mom has changed my life. She's perfect. And people had commented, saying things like, "You look so natural, she has your eyes, you're going to be the best mom." Some had even said, "I didn't know you had a baby." And Kelly, she replied to them. She thanked them. She used my daughter's name. She didn't say a word about me. Not once. I don't remember breathing after that. Just a rush of white-hot panic that turned to rage. I confronted her. I didn't wait. I stormed into her room, phone in hand, and demanded to know what the hell she was doing. She didn't deny it. She didn't even try to hide it. She acted like I was the one overreacting. Said the post wasn't meant for outsiders, that it was just a creative way to express how close she felt to the baby. Like calling herself the mother was just some poetic metaphor. But I saw it in her eyes. She meant it. She believed it. I told my parents. I showed them the posts, the comments, everything. And instead of reacting with horror or even concern, my mom just said, "She didn't mean anything by it. You know Kelly loves that baby." And my dad? He had the audacity to tell me to stop making a scene. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just favoritism. This wasn't about helping me out until I got on my feet. This was deliberate. They were trying to rewrite the story. And if I didn't do something soon, I was going to lose my daughter completely. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept playing everything over in my head, how easily they'd all accepted this alternate version of reality where Kelly was the mom and I was, what? The unreliable big sister who couldn't handle her own child? At 3 a.m., I got up, walked into Kelly's room, and just watched her sleep. My baby was curled up next to her, tucked under that stupid personalized blanket, like it was her child. Not mine. Not once did anyone think it was weird that a 19-year-old college student with no income, no experience, and no consent was playing house with someone else's newborn. I wanted to grab my daughter and walk out that night. Just vanish. But I didn't have a job, no place of my own, and barely enough money to cover a hotel room for more than a week. That's when I realized how well they'd boxed me in. They didn't need to take legal action or go to court. They were slowly making me feel so small and dependent that I'd just give up. But I wasn't going to give up. The next day, I made 2 phone calls. First to a women's shelter that helped young mothers. I explained my situation as calmly as I could, leaving out the social media drama, and asked about emergency housing. They told me they had a waitlist but might be able to get me in within a few weeks if I kept calling back. Second, I called a lawyer. Not one of those big, fancy family attorneys. I didn't have that kind of money. Just someone a friend from high school had recommended. She offered a free consultation, so I took it. Over the phone, I told her everything. I didn't even care how it sounded. She was quiet for a moment and then said something that made my blood run cold. She told me that what my sister was doing, what my parents were enabling, was dangerously close to custodial interference. That if they'd taken my baby anywhere without my permission, and especially if they were posing as the legal guardian online, it could be used against them. But that also meant things could escalate fast if I wasn't careful. She said, "Get your daughter. Document everything. And don't let them know you're planning to leave until you're out." That was the first time in weeks I felt like I had even a sliver of control. That night, I started documenting everything. Screenshots of Kelly's Instagram posts. Comments she replied to. A text my mom sent me that literally said, "Kelly's basically the mom at this point." I even recorded audio of a conversation where my dad told me to stop acting like you're her mother when you're never around. That one stung the most. I felt like I was sneaking around in my own house, gathering evidence like I was preparing for war. But in a way, I was. And I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore, I was fighting for my daughter. Over the next few days, I played nice. I let Kelly think she was winning. I even thanked her a few times when she offered to feed or change the baby, just so she'd keep her guard down. But slowly, quietly, I started taking back space. I kept my daughter in my room at night again. I claimed more of her feedings. I made sure I was the one she fell asleep on. Kelly noticed, of course. She started getting cold. Passive-aggressive comments here and there. "Don't burn yourself out," she'd say. Or, "She settles faster when I hold her." My mom started chiming in too. "Kelly just has that natural touch. Don't take it personally." I wanted to scream. But I kept it cool. Because I had a plan. I called the shelter again and asked about my status. They told me they had an opening, one room, private, just for mothers and infants, and it was available in 3 days. I felt a wave of relief, followed by full-body panic. This was it. I had a window. And I couldn't blow it. I spent the next 2 days gathering everything I could without drawing attention. Important documents. Baby clothes. Diapers. Formula. I borrowed a duffel bag from a friend and started stuffing it during the baby's naps. It was surreal, like preparing to escape from captivity. And then, the night before I planned to leave, something happened that nearly ruined everything. Kelly came into my room uninvited. I was rocking my daughter to sleep, and she just stood there in the doorway, watching us. Then she said, calmly, too calmly, "You're not really taking her anywhere, are you?" My heart skipped so violently I thought it might stop altogether. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. I just kept rocking my daughter, pretending like I hadn't heard her clearly. But Kelly stepped inside the room, arms crossed, staring me down. She didn't look angry, she looked smug. Like she knew something I didn't. "I saw the bag," she said. "In the closet. You're not exactly subtle." I felt cornered. Like prey. But I forced a smile and told her I was just packing for a weekend away, trying to sound casual. A little trip to reset, get some air, nothing serious. She tilted her head and said, "That's funny, because Mom said she found your birth certificate in your sock drawer. Along with the baby's." My stomach dropped. They were watching me. Checking my things. Snooping when I wasn't around. I hadn't even realized how closely they'd been tracking me, how quickly they'd started seeing me as a threat instead of family. Kelly walked closer and said something I'll never forget. She looked at my daughter, and whispered, "You think you're just going to walk out with her? That's not happening." I asked her what that was supposed to mean. She didn't answer. She just smiled again and said, "You'll see." Then she turned around and left the room, as if we'd just chatted about the weather. I sat there shaking, barely holding myself together. I knew I had to move fast. The shelter was expecting me the next day. But now, I wasn't sure I'd even get out the door without someone physically stopping me. That night, I barely slept. I kept the baby in my bed, fully dressed, bag zipped, documents hidden on me. Every creak in the hallway made me jump. By 5 a.m., I was already up. My ride, a volunteer driver from the shelter, was scheduled for 6:30. And I had no idea what would happen when I walked out that front door. At 6:25 a.m., my ride pulled into the driveway. I could see the headlights sweep across the walls of my room. My duffel was already slung over one shoulder, baby wrapped snug against my chest. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the bottle I'd packed for the road. I didn't say goodbye. I walked as quietly as I could down the hallway. But the house was old. Every step on those creaky floors felt like a drumbeat announcing my escape. My heart was pounding louder than my footsteps. I made it to the front door. My hand was on the knob when I heard it. Kelly's voice, from behind me. "So you're really doing it?" I turned slowly. She was standing in the hallway in pajamas, arms folded, eyes glassy like she hadn't slept at all. But there was something else in her face too, something cracked. A desperation I hadn't seen before. She looked at the baby in my arms and said, "She cries when you hold her. She settles with me." I told her that's because she stole time that wasn't hers. That she confused the baby. That none of this was normal. Then she said the one thing that made everything snap. "She needs me more than you." My voice came out low and shaking, but I meant every word. "She's not yours, Kelly. She was never yours." My mom appeared behind her, looking dazed, like she had just woken up and stumbled into a movie scene. She asked what was happening. Kelly just whispered, "She's leaving." Like it was a betrayal. My mom didn't try to stop me. She just sighed, like I was being selfish. Like I was making a mistake by trying to reclaim my own child. I opened the door and stepped into the cool morning air. The driver, a kind older woman in a blue windbreaker, waved me over. I didn't look back. Not once. As we pulled away from the house, I watched Kelly step outside, barefoot, just standing there on the porch, watching us disappear. She didn't cry. She just stared like someone watching their entire fantasy collapse in real time. And for the first time in weeks, I breathed. The shelter was quiet when we arrived. Tired faces. Soft voices. The kind of silence that feels like safety when your life has been screaming at you for too long. The room they gave me was small but clean. A crib, a twin bed, and a dresser. No pastel blankets with Kelly's last name stitched on them. No sideways glances. Just peace. I collapsed on the bed with my daughter curled against my chest. She fell asleep almost instantly. And for the first time in over a month, I did too. Over the next few days, I started putting my life back together, slowly, piece by piece. The shelter helped me connect with social services. I got emergency aid, counseling, and even daycare referrals. The lawyer I'd spoken to before? She offered to help me file a cease and desist letter, one specifically warning my family not to interfere or claim guardianship of my child. Because, get this, Kelly kept posting. Even after I left. Photos from before I left, with captions like missing her so much already broken heart and I'll always be her real mom in my heart. Real mom. I wanted to scream. But instead, I documented everything. Screenshots. Dates. Times. I even got a statement from a staff member at the shelter about my arrival and condition. A week later, I went to the courthouse and filed an official affidavit of sole custody. The lawyer helped me write it all up. The emotional manipulation, the fake online posts, the interference with my ability to bond with my child. We didn't file anything aggressive yet, but we made it crystal clear, I'm the mother. Legally. Permanently. 2 days later, I got a message from an unknown number. It was Kelly. She said, "You've ruined everything." I just wanted to be part of her life. No apology. No acknowledgement of what she'd done. Just grief over losing a fantasy that was never hers to begin with. I stared at Kelly's message for a long time. You've ruined everything. No. I saved everything. I saved my daughter. I saved myself. I didn't respond. The next few weeks were hard. I was rebuilding my life from the ground up with a baby in one arm and trauma strapped to my back like luggage I hadn't packed. But every night when I rocked my daughter to sleep, her little fingers wrapped around mine, I reminded myself why I'd done it. She's mine. Not some symbol for someone else's maternal fantasy. Not a replacement for Kelly's lack of direction. A human. My daughter. Eventually, the posts on Kelly's private account stopped. Maybe because she realized I had proof. Or maybe because people started asking questions. A few mutual friends reached out after seeing the screenshots I quietly shared with them. Some were horrified. Others weren't surprised. Apparently, Kelly's always had a way of weaving herself into other people's stories. She just never went this far before. As for my parents? They haven't reached out. Not once. No calls. No emails. Nothing. And that silence? It hurts more than I want to admit. But it also says everything I need to know. Because when your own family watches you slip and instead of helping you up, they hand your child to someone else, that's not family. But here's what matters. My daughter knows my voice. She reaches for me. She laughs when I walk into the room. Her first smile? It was mine. And no one, not my sister, not my parents, not anyone, can take that from me. I don't know what our future looks like yet. I'm working on finding stable housing, looking for part-time work, and finishing the paperwork to make sure every legal box is checked. But for now, we're safe. We're healing. And we're together. Sometimes I wonder if Kelly still believes she was trying to help. If she thought she was saving my baby from me. But I think, deep down, she wanted to be saved from her own empty life. And she tried to do it by stealing mine. So if you've made it this far, let me just say this. If something feels off, trust your gut. Even if everyone around you tells you you're overreacting. Because sometimes the people who smile the most, who help the most, are the ones quietly writing you out of your own story. Not me. Not anymore. This is my story. And I'm taking it back.